meeting will include a recap of each chapter and questions for the audience about the topic. This is an informal discussion, so I want you to be relaxed, feel comfortable participating as little or as much as you want. Raise your virtual hand when I pose questions so I know who to call on as we go through the meeting. However, do keep your microphone muted at all times until your name is called before speaking or unless told otherwise. So first, I just want to go to introductions. This is just an icebreaker, so that way we can get acquainted with one another as we introduce ourselves. I'll go first and then call on you one by one for you to have a turn as well. So again, my name is Brianna. I am in the finance industry. I would rate myself a 7. One of my financial goals is to have multiple streams of income within the next 2 years. And one of my financial weaknesses is student loan debt. I'm still waiting on President Biden to come through with, his promises to us. However, that is something that I struggle with just with my personal beliefs. So what I want to do is that anyone who's comfortable, you don't have to if you don't want to, but just to kind of, like I said, break the ice so we can get acquainted with each other. Again, this is like a book club meeting, so we are going to be speaking freely once I do pose the questions to the audience. So if you would just go ahead and raise your virtual hand, and then I will just start calling on you guys one by one to just introduce yourself in the order. Okay, I see hands are going up.
And so, Bree, make sure you hit the next slide too that has the actual questions that are on there.
Is the introduction icebreaker slide, is that showing?
Nope, it's still on the actual cover.
There.
Yep, there we go.
Okay, perfect, thanks. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start with Rashida. Could you just go ahead and introduce yourself in the order that's on the screen, please?
Yes, thank you. I am Rashida Pippins. I'm actually in the healthcare profession. I am probably about a 6 to 7. I got some student loan debt as well as some medical bills that I need to clear up for my father. My financial goal would be to be debt-free as far as my student loans. I have a lot of student loans. I have 3 degrees that I helped to pay for. So that would be great to clear that up. My financial weakness, I think, probably would be the student loans and then some of the medical bills. So.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for sharing, Rashida. I'll move on to Kenya.
Hi, good evening. I'm Kenya Tassin. I'm a director of operations for a security company. I would probably say I'm about a 6 or 7 in terms of being financially whole. One financial goal of mine would be to not have any debt. I know it's totally doable. And my financial weakness, I'm going to say I do have student loans, but my financial weakness is when I'm upset, I will go buy me something to cheer myself up. So I got to get better at that.
Yes, it's all a process for sure. Thanks for sharing, Kenya. I'll go ahead and select Ava. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know if it's Ava or Ava.
It's Ava. Thank you. My name is Ava Coleman. I am a 3rd grade teacher, and I would rate myself maybe a 2, only because it seems like so I have enough and I pay all of my bills on time, but somehow like towards the next check, I don't have anything. And so the check is like, it comes in and then it's out again. So one of my financial goals is to stop playing this catch up game that I play every month. And then one of my financial weaknesses is that I also have $200,000 in student loan debt. So I need to work on that and come through. Hopefully Dr. Jill Biden can help with the forgiveness of the student loan.
Yes, everyone is waiting for them to come through on their promises for sure. But thanks for sharing, Ava. I'll move on to Olympia. You're muted.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Olympia Glenn Span. I am a talent acquisitions recruiter. I work for Visa and I am newly into fintech right now. So as far as my rating, I am probably at about a 6. I recently just paid off all of my debt, minus my student loans. So my husband and I, we are in our first time home buying process. So a lot of learning. So I'm very, very intrigued by this book. Something that I can work on would absolutely be budgeting for sure.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing. I'll move on to Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Farrell. I am in HR. I would rate my financial like 5, borderline 6. One financial goal I have is like to be debt free and buy a house instead of renting. My weakness is like everyone else, student loans. I'm waiting, hopefully I did 15 years in education, so I'm hoping that they will do some, like everybody else, some loan forgiveness. And another weakness is just like Kenya, when you're in those moods where she shops, I will book a trip and take off in a minute. So I really, got to do better than that.
All right, thanks for sharing. You also got to think about it, if you are in a position to do that, that says something as well. So keep that in mind. All right, thanks for sharing, Jennifer. Okay, I'll go to Star.
Hello, everyone. My name is Star Gatson, and I would say, I'm sorry, let me go back to it because I'm actually, my profession is I'm a brand manager / consultant. I would say that I'm possibly around a 5-6. My issue is more not making enough finances, but keeping it. I would love to be a saver and I would love to be a saver and budget a little bit better, but I am a organized hoarder. I love sales. I love giving. I'm a gifter. And I really like spending money. So I love donating. I love all things that go outward. So with money. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, nothing wrong with giving back is definitely important. Thanks for sharing. I'll go to Bethany.
Good evening. Happy Financial Literacy Month. My name is Bethany Peppers. I am the Women's Resource Center coordinator for campus. I'd say it's really hard for me to tell like how financially whole I am because this is like my first full-time salary. So it's hard for me to like evaluate. So I'd say I'm like at a 4 or 5 because luckily I don't have any loans. But that also means I don't have any credit. So there's that conundrum. But my goal would be to make a full plan for retirement since I know I can make a good impact in that for me right now, since I am in that position with no responsibilities other than, living. And then my financial weakness would be that lack of credit.
Yes, Tiffany definitely discusses credit and how having no credit could be worse than having bad credit. So definitely something that's covered in the book. Thanks for sharing, Bethany. I'll move on to Danielle.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Danielle Brooks. I'm a paralegal. I'm about probably a 6 or a 7 with my rate. I just recently paid off some stuff. So I just pretty much have my student loans, which I am ready. I am so ready to get rid of those. My goal is to be debt-free, as some people have stated already, but also to start my own business and to save more. I've started, but I'm not where I want to be. And one of my weaknesses, overspending. I have a lot of shoes and a lot of clothes. So I window shop, but I do have a weakness for shoes and clothes. So I'm trying to not spend so much.
That's definitely a struggle in itself, believe me. I definitely understand. Okay, Kiara.
Hello. So my name is Kiara. Sorry, my camera's off because I literally just got back from Vegas. So still in the process of getting home. However, I am a grad student at SIU. I do have, well, two jobs, I would guess I could say. One is being a community assistant, and then the other one, I have a graduate assistantship. Believe it or not, student loans is definitely what's gonna hold me back. However, I would rate myself maybe a good 7.5. I do have credit, and I have 3 credit cards, all of which are paid off. So I was proud of myself for that. However, I'm one of those people that like to give as well. And I tend to, I don't know, I'm not materialistic, but whenever someone's like, oh, like I'm not in a good mood or I don't feel well, I'm like, okay, let's go here, let's do that. Or even if I'm bored, let's go do some retail therapy. So that's definitely another weakness. My strong suit is I have 2 bank like cards. So one card is specifically for bills. So I'll put money into that account and I'll leave that card at home and not touch that one. And then I have like a spending account. So
The key word to when you're talking about your retail, habits is that it's therapy. It is a form of therapy. We're all about self-love. So again, don't be too hard on yourself. But thanks for sharing. I'll go on to Kim.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Armour. I'm a supervisor at the Juvenile Detention Center. I'm also an entrepreneur. I own my own yard sign and t-shirt business. One of my goals is to save 20% of my check, every paycheck, and freeze my credit card. My weakness is I want to stop using my credit cards and just use debit or cash. But it's so easy to use your credit card when you like, I could save that for a rainy day. So that'll be my weakness.
In regards to that, it has been said that, it's kind of better to use a credit card versus your debit card because it does limit risk because you have to think about your debit card is connected to your bank account. However, if you're not at the financial standing to be paying off your balances every month and you're just raking up, the balance on top of balance, then yeah, that is something that you do want to kind of consider. But thanks for sharing. I'll go on to London.
Hello, my name is London Jones. I am currently a case manager and an assistant principal of an elementary school. I think I would rate myself maybe a 5. I'm halfway there. One of my financial goals is to sustain myself in multiple streams of income. And one of my financial weaknesses definitely is my student loans. I think I'm just decided to just continuously take classes so I won't have to pay them back. I don't even know if that's gonna fix the situation, but in my head, I'm like, I'm not paying them people that money back. So I might as well just take classes to prevent myself from paying those large amounts back. And then I need to find a healthy balance in terms of spending.
All right, thanks for sharing, London. Moving on to Latia.
Sorry, I was having trouble trying to figure out how to raise my hand on here. My name's Latia Carter. I work in the customer service department for a mental health company called Centerstone. I rate myself a 4 for financial wholeness. I need to work on learning how to budget and learning how to save. Like I have a savings account, but it's not where I want it to be. And one of my financial weaknesses is I feel like I just have to reward myself all the time. Like, oh, I had a good week or a good day. Let me go and buy myself something. And, I deserve it. But in actuality, my bank account is like, no, girl, you need to chill. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for sharing and definitely refer to the book. It'll Tiffany touches all of those topics for you to assist. Okay, I'm gonna hold off on Monica and Jakari, but is there anyone else in the audience that have not introduced themselves and want to? If so, please take the time to raise your hand now, your virtual hand. Okay, I show Jillian.
Hi, my name is Jillian Turner, and I was invited by Jamila, and I've read the book, and it is wonderful. I am a 911 dispatcher in Aurora, and I would rate myself probably a 6. I would say I know what to do and how to get it done, and I take care of all the bills at our house, so I love paying everything on time and paying things off. But then once I pay those things off, I feel like we're free, we can do fun stuff. And I really should probably be more, just a little bit more reserved when it comes to that, because I am in charge of everything. So I would say my financial goal would probably be to save more. Long term, I feel like we could do better in our savings and just having, just cash that we don't touch. Our retirement, both of us, my husband and I both have pensions and retirement funds set up already, but just something to supplement that. And I would like to maybe get into like stocks a little bit more. I don't feel like I'm knowledgeable about them at all. So just to be more knowledgeable about those. And then my financial weakness, I think, is what one of the other ladies mentioned. I feel like whenever we start doing really well, like I feel like I have to reward myself and maybe not do that as much.
Okay, thanks for sharing, Jillian. If there's no other hands, I'll go to Monica and then Jakari.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Sora Brianna. Lower my hand. Okay, let me introduce myself. My profession, I am an accountant and also a finance manager and a multiple business owner. And how financially whole I am, I would rate myself about a 8 or 9 out of 10. Some of my financial goals would be to have multiple businesses self-running, so then I can move away from being an employee of the companies that I run and have myself really just be an owner, where the revenues are just coming in and that's that. I'm just somewhere off vacationing and that's that. Some of my financial weaknesses, or my one financial weakness, the thing that I'm working on now. So I've left a financial legacy for my children, but I also need to leave income or create enough income for me to be able to retire. So that's the thing that I'm working on now.
Thanks for sharing, Monica. You see why I left you towards the end. We need you showing us up in the beginning. But thank you. And then I'll go ahead and end with President Henderson. If you would introduce yourself, please.
Okay, thank you, Sorority. So my name is Jakari Henderson. My profession is assistant AD for compliance in the athletic department. I would say financially whole, I would rate myself a 7, maybe a 7.5. One of my financial goals is to increase multiple streams of income by adding 3 additional streams of income. Another goal that I have is I started real estate school. So I really want to make sure that I get invested in that to create long lasting generational wealth for my family. And then one financial weakness I'll say is I'm probably one of the more fiscally sound individuals in my family. So I'm typically helping or assisting when I can to other people. So I would say that that's maybe one of the weaknesses that I have. Brianna and Monica know I do a lot of saving challenges. I believe in paying for stuff before. And I'm also a certified financial counselor. So finance is kind of my background. So I do know that it is important to make sure that you are being fiscally sound as well as responsible. But again, weakness being, helping people, and then also student loan debt. I do have 2 degrees. And so, working to make sure that I pay that off as well.
Okay, I do want to thank everyone for sharing, just being vulnerable and transparent about, where you are financially standing, where you want to be, and just some things that you've overcome. Definitely want to, take home and everything that Tiffany is saying in the book. Do keep in mind that, your finances are tailored to yourself. It's not one size fits all. So don't be too hard on yourself if you're not where someone else is, because everyone's journey is different. But again, I thank you for, participating and introducing yourself, and so that we can all get acquainted. All right, so now let's just go into the book here. In the very beginning, we're going to just start with the introduction recap. So here, basically, we just get to learn a little bit more about Tiffany's background and her story of how she became the Budgetnista. She grew up in a two-parent household where both parents held multiple degrees. Her father was an expert in finance. He was actually a chief financial officer of a company, so this allowed Tiffany to have some knowledge of finance as well from a very early start, to where at the age of 25 to 26, she had her own condo that she owned. She had about $40,000 saved in the bank, and she had a pretty perfect credit score. One thing I did notice is that, when she was willing to invest her money, she decided to reach out to someone other than someone she trusts, like her father. I believe that this shows us that even when we have all of the tools and the resources that benefits us, we can still make, some not smart decisions with our money. Because at the end of the day, no one is foolproof. Like I said, it's not tailored to one size fits all. It's going to be customized based on your own financial journey, your background, and so forth. However, sometimes you do just need to bump your head a few times to learn any lessons that comes with it. So I do want to pose a question to the audience. If someone could share their take on Tiffany's background and how that resonated with them as they read the book, again, just go ahead and raise your virtual hand, and I would just select a couple people to answer this. The first hand I saw is Latia.
Okay, so in Tiffany's introduction, she talked about learning her first financial lesson when I think it was the ice cream thing. She was excited to get her ice cream, and her dad was like, "No, you left the water on." So the waterman took your ice cream money. So that kind of made me think about when I was growing up, and my mom would always say, "You need to turn off these lights," because everywhere I go, I turn on the light, turn on the light, turn on the light. Not knowing all these things cost money because I was young, but she was like, "You have all these lights on, you're running up the bill. You really gotta." Turn the lights off. So I just felt like that definitely took me back to my childhood when I was first learning about how everything costed money.
Yes, that's very true. It's like sometimes you just hold on to that, because even to this day, I'm still the same way. As an adult, I'm like, make sure I turn off any unnecessary lights, the TV, etc. So it's just something that you keep with yourself. I'll go to Ava. Can you share your take on Tiffany's background?
So my take on it, it actually made me reflect on my own background with the differences between us. So I grew up, my parents are from East St. Louis, and they pretty much grew up in poverty, right? So when they, came of age and they started, they keep everything. We struggled a lot growing up. And so now I'm looking at myself as a person who's in charge of bills and whatnot. Um, and I kind of, when I see that I have extra money at the end of the month, I feel like, I don't know, I can't explain it. Like in my head, it feels like a surplus somehow. And I honestly, I don't put it aside. I know that I should, but I'm trying to, overcome these generational sort of spending habits because it took 34 years to learn it. And so now it's going to take, I don't know how long to unlearn it.
As long as you, set a plan and take the necessary steps to building your budget and doing all of the things necessary, you'll unlearn those bad habits for sure. It's just like with anything new, you just have to have self-discipline and be patient. It's going to come just like it does with anything else that you're learning. So I do see that I still have a couple of hands raised. If you ladies would like to answer the question of how important it is to have a solid financial foundation, just keep your hand raised and I'll go to Kenya.
It's definitely really important to have a solid foundation. When you look at things like purchasing a home or those big ticket items, or if there's an emergency that occurs, how are you able to finance that, right? I'm from a single parent household. I was the first generation to go to college. And so just listening to Tiffany, a lot of what she learned, I don't want to say the educational way, but you know, my father taught me things about saving, pay yourself first, and different mannerisms, right? But I still have not reached an 800 credit score. I'm 700, but I purchased my first home in 2019, so only a couple of years ago, when she had hers at 26. So it definitely puts you in a different position when you have that strong financial background and you have a substantial savings to be able to pretty much handle whatever life comes at you. So.
Yes, that's true. Definitely have to take any of your milestones and look at that lifeline, look at your timeline to show like, you know what, I did accomplish this at this age or whatever the case may be. We love putting a timeline on ourselves, and at 21, I had this and I had that. It's just something about us that we have to put a number to it. So if that does, motivate you, then by all means, definitely keep doing that. Thanks for sharing, Kenya. I'm gonna move on to the next question, which is, what about the financial turmoil that Tiffany faced when she lost her job? Olympia, are you okay with answering this question?
Oh, absolutely. The financial turmoil after she lost her job and being faced with having to pay for everything, man, that was so personal because I remember being in that moment, finally being able to land a job. I was a mother of two, my kids were small, and I was just I had a job paying $50,000, and that was a lot of money to me at that time, being able to actually contribute to bills and that sort of thing. And when I lost that job and had literally zero savings because of bad decisions that I made, it forced me to look at money differently, look at credit differently, because without a job, not being able to rely on credit put me in a very bad place where I literally had to rely on other people to take care of me until I was able to be, to stand on my own 2 feet. So I think the majority of it is mental. Once you look at money differently, once you look at savings and credit differently, you handle it differently because you value money, you value the job that you have, in order to take care of things that you need to take care of. So I definitely resonate. That resonated with me a lot.
Yes, you could see that Tiffany was just going through so much during that time. She had a lot of shame. She just had a lot of doubts, and she was just overall disappointed in herself, to where she put a lot of pressure on herself, and she was keeping it away from her friends, her family. And by the time she actually told them what was wrong, they're like, girl, that's your problem. And so it's like, that lifted off that pressure off her shoulders. And a lot of the time, especially as Black women, we're very, we're standing on being strong, independent women. But there comes those times like today with our discussion, we're being a little bit vulnerable. We are being transparent. And it's like you have to pose and ask a question to yourself. Are you comfortable with doing this with your friends, your family, people that really know you? I'm like, it's kind of easy to do it like with some strangers that you really don't know. It's like, they don't know me. I don't care what their opinions are. But when it comes to people that you trust and you love, how quick are you to share with them? So I do appreciate you ladies sharing. I am going to move on to the chapter 1 recap. Those that have their hands raised, if you want to keep your hands raised for the next questions, please do so. Otherwise, you can lower your hands. I do thank you. Okay, so moving on to chapter 1, Tiffany introduces the 10 steps to becoming financially whole and how to shape your mindset to accept these methods. You cannot start anything new without getting rid of old bad habits and thoughts that do not allow you to grow. There are 5 exercises that she discusses. The first exercise is to identify any behaviors that are not serving your pursuit of financial wholeness. Think 2 steps ahead to eliminate unproductive patterns. Ask yourself 3 questions when you're about to spend money so you can make better decisions. The first question, what would this purchase, change, or financial decision do for me now? Secondly, what will it do for me a month from now when the bill comes? And thirdly, what will I do when the bill comes and the money that was supposed to go toward one thing now has to go towards this other thing? The second exercise is to visualize a new and improved version of yourself that's good with money. Don't forget that your money needs to work hard for you, not the other way around. Once you change the mindset of slaving for money, you can see yourself bossed up, taking charge, and telling your money what it needs to do and where it needs to go. The third exercise is to be grateful for the good and the bad in your life. Understand that learning new things and navigating money differently, it takes time. It may seem hard at first, but you'll learn as you go. It gets easier the more you practice and how intentional you become. So you can create a gratitude list and keep track of everything that you're grateful for and read it aloud every day as a daily reminder. The fourth exercise is to simply have joy. Don't allow superficial and materialistic gains to take over your mind that you forget about the things that really matter. Or being so tough on yourself that you overlook the progress you've made and the fact that you're in a better position than the year or the month or even the day before. Even during tough times, make sure to find a reason to be happy and smile. The fifth exercise is to find your support system. Remove anyone in your life who is negative and doesn't contribute to you being the best version of yourself. Consider an accountability partner to help each other grow or a mentor to give you the push that you need. Lastly, always remember to choose faith over any fear or doubt you might have because you're more than capable of doing anything you put your mind to. So that basically just covers what was talked about in chapter 1 and how to have the get good with money mindset. So again, I do have questions that I want to ask the audience. So let's get some hands raised. And the first question that I have is, which exercise do you like the best and why? Jillian, you're the first hand that I saw. Go for it.
I liked number 2, establishing your own financial voice and taking charge. That statement that she made at the bottom to envision yourself and seeing yourself good with money and doing well with money. I think that positive outlook is just half of it. Like if you say to yourself, I'm going to save, I'm going to pay on time, I'm going to put money here or put money there and take care of this payment this month or, pay everything, whatever your plan is, just to be able to visualize and see things positively is half the battle. And so I really, really liked that part where she was saying, like, just envision yourself being a boss and taking control of your own finances. I think that's awesome.
Yes, I'm a firm believer of manifesting and, having positive affirmations. Tell yourself, like, I got this under control. That money is going to do what I need it to do. Not that, oh, it controls me, because then it's going to warp the type of relationship that you have with money to where it's not a positive one. So thanks for sharing on that, Jillian. The next question that I have is, which exercise is going to be the easiest for you to do and why? Danielle, I see your hand is raised. Are you okay with answering this question?
Yes. I think the one that I can say that's the easiest for me because I do it now is I scold myself and I make sure that I don't use bill money for things that, like if I go shopping or something like that, I make sure that I pay my bills first. So that's the easiest thing for me. I don't like to be late on bills. So I usually pay my bills 2 weeks or right on time. So I think that would be the easiest thing for me.
Yes, being disciplined is key. Is very key because you have to, keep yourself in line, and so that you don't fall off or you don't, backtrack on the progress you've made. You got to keep taking those steps, one foot in front of another. So thanks for sharing. The next question that I have is, which exercise is going to be the hardest for you to do? Kim, are you okay with answering this question?
Sure. I would say I'm learning how to live for joy. So I focus more on making everyone else happy around me instead of making me happy and doing what I want to do. So live for joy, I think it's the hardest, but I'm striving for it for this year. Self-care, doing what Kim want to do, making sure Kim happy, and stop putting everybody else second and start putting me first.
Yes, that is very important. When you're on a plane, they always tell you, you put the mask on yourself before you can help anyone else. Because if you can't breathe and you pass out, you're no good for anybody. So definitely take care of yourself first, as best as you can, and whatever is left over, lend out to others. So thank you all ladies for sharing. And I'll go ahead and move on to chapter 2. So the chapter 2 recap, Tiffany discusses the first step to becoming financially whole. We're now getting into those steps. So the first step, she talks about building your budget. And she wants you to think of this as your say yes plan. So you'll make a list of the money that comes in and out. You'll take the difference between what you made and what you spent in the current month and write this as your savings beginning balance for the next month. Categorize the items on your money out list by bills, which are fixed costs that you have little control over. Utilities, these expenses fluctuate, so you have medium control. And then cash, these items vary and are solely based on you because you have full control over what you spend. Reduce your spending if you spend too much. Recalculate the monthly savings without unnecessary items, or try to get a job promotion, add a side hustle, or get a new job if you just don't make enough to bring in more income to cover your expenses. Separate your funds into different bank accounts. One checking account for deposits and spending. This will be for your cash items. This can be held at a physical bank with a debit card. Another checking for bills and utilities. This can be held at a physical bank without a debit card. One savings for an emergency. This is going to be for your emergency fund, where you're able to hold and save about 3 to 6 months of any expenses that you have. And then this can be at an online bank account, and this is going to be without a debit card. You're going to have one savings for personal goals. This is also going to be at an online bank without a debit card. Keep in mind that the online account should be FDIC insured. They're going to have the highest interest rate possible to gain more on your balance, a low initial deposit requirement, as well as low monthly fees. And then automate the percentage of your income to be direct deposited into the separate accounts, or you can do this manually. I'll just start by saying my biggest takeaway from this chapter is the multiple bank accounts, because it is extremely important to have multiple accounts open. You want to limit your access to certain funds, and there isn't a maximum number of accounts that you can have open at a time anyway. So why not have many? That way you can just, like I said, limit the access for any fraudulent reasons. Don't want to give people access to your money, or even yourself, to have that self-discipline. And then also keep in mind that this will kind of give you the opportunity to bank with a Black-owned financial institution. And keep in mind that these Black-owned financial institutions, they provide funding to underrepresented communities. Of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, we're all about pushing the Black Dollar Initiative, and it's easier to get loans from Black banks or credit unions than most institutions that are not Black owned. So definitely keep that in mind. It's not talked about enough, but it is very important and very vital whenever we're discussing a financial journey. So I do want to pose questions to the audience again. So if you go ahead and raise your virtual hands, and we can get those questions going. All right, the first hand I see is Kim. Thank you, Kim. My question to you is, what is your biggest takeaway from this chapter? Hey, London, how about you take this question?
For me, it's the multiple bank accounts, but because I was not disciplined enough, like initially when I chose a credit union that only had 3 locations so that I wouldn't have access. It wouldn't be like easy access for me to get to it. But of course, after a while, I went into the bank and I got a debit card that was connected to, and that was like the worst decision that I can make, because then it was, I carried the card around with me. And so I would be like, oh, I got the money in there, so I'll just use this. Oh, I got the money in there. And so it kind of really, stopped me from saving as much as I wanted to. So for me, it's, I felt like I needed to actually just, cut up the debit card because I'm not strong enough to have it in my wallet and not use it. And then just don't get another debit card that's connected to my savings account. And then I messed up because I had a vacation account and a Christmas account at the same bank. And so of course, I'm seeing like the balance and I'm like, oh, I got it. And I was dipping in my vacation and I was dipping in my Christmas account. So it was just all a mess. So after reading this, I was like, you know what, I maybe need to just go ahead on and cut that debit card up.
All right, thanks for sharing, London. Kiara, can you answer if you have made a say yes plan, something like a vacation, going back to school, starting a business, anything along those lines?
I'm sorry, repeat that one more time.
Yes. So Tiffany, she mentions about like a say yes plan whenever you're building your budget. So do you have a say yes plan or anything that you're looking to say yes to in the future?
I don't currently. I know what if it has anything to do with like my spending account, I'm okay with that. Like I mentioned earlier, I have the 2 accounts. So the bill account as well as the spending account. If I have it in my spending account and it's something sort of valuable, I'll say yes to.
Okay, thank you. Bethany, I'm going to ask you, did you write down any of your spending habits?
I did, and I've done this exercise before, and just like writing out of my spending habits part. And every time I like to eat, y'all, like I go out to eat all the time, or I'll skip lunch. So now I work through lunch. So now I'm running to McDonald's or whatever the closest fast food restaurant is at 4 o'clock. Cause I'm like, oh, I need nutrients. I need something on my stomach. And so yes, I've identified my problem, but I haven't yet figured out how to cure the issue. I've tried meal prepping, doesn't really last for me. I've tried the HelloFresh sending boxes. So yes, I've tried, but we're still working on it.
Thanks for the honesty there, Bethany. Okay, so we're gonna move on to chapter 3. And we'll recap the 5 do's that Tiffany discusses that are in regards to the second step to becoming financially whole. She wants you to save like a squirrel. Tiffany's pretty creative with her analogies and different titles of the book, I can definitely say. So when it comes to saving like a squirrel, you want to make sure that you make a list of expected raises, bonuses, tax refunds, your birthday, etc., and make sure that you have this stashed away. Create an emergency fund. Again, you want to add up any monthly costs as far as bills and utilities, other essentials, multiply that by 3. 6 months is the goal, but if you can't start with 6 months, then go ahead and start with 3 months, and that'll kind of get you started in this way that you can turn this into a bill and add this as your budget plan if you don't have enough saved already to cover your 3 to 6 months of expenses. When creating a goal savings account, think of it as a specific goal that you have, like a trip, a car, etc. Take the amount of the expense divided by the number of months you give yourself to reach this goal and add it as a bill to your budget. Always try not to oversave, as hard as it may be, because if you save without a set goal, you'll begin to lose money, because when you throw all this money into a savings account, it does not grow as much as it should. we're going through inflation right now and all these other things. The economy dollar is not going to be the same dollar today as in 10 years from now, or what it was 10 years ago. So keep that in mind. And then define what your noodle budget is. Are you willing to cut back on any of your beauty maintenance, special birthday dinners, any monthly subscriptions, anything like that? And also take unexpected money that you had no idea was coming. Maybe someone, paid for your dinner, someone in front of you at the drive-through, Bethany going to McDonald's late at night, someone in front of her pays for her meal. That $5 to $10 that she's going to spend on that meal, she needs to put that in her savings account, and she needs to make sure that is a part of her now budget. And then as well as discover your needs, loves, likes, and wants. This way you can go through everything that you're spending and determine that priority. Choose 2 loves that you have, and this will now become your new savings goal. And then again, set up your automated monthly deposits into either the emergency fund and goal savings accounts. And so that is just already done. You don't have to worry about it, and it's out of your hands. So I'll go ahead and post questions to the audience. So if someone could tell me after reading this chapter, did they have a different understanding of saving? And let me get this pulled up. Danielle, could you answer this question, please?
I actually did. I started saving. I had listened to a podcast about percentages that you should take out from each check. So I started saving that way. But as of just taking out the automated amounts, I don't do that. I'm kind of controlling in that way. I like to pay my bills myself. So, but that did open my eyes to how I was saving and making sure that the right amounts get applied to where I want them to be applied to, as far as travel or emergency or retirement or whatever. So.
Okay, great. And
Thank you.
Does anyone feel like they act like a squirrel versus an ostrich? Tiffany talks about the difference of the two. Does anyone want to comment on that? Kiara, I see your hand is raised. Did you want to speak on this?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I can speak. I just had it up just to answer questions. As far as spending, I don't know. Could it be possible to say I'm a bit of both? Or do I need to pick like a direct one?
No, you can consider yourself as both. I personally consider myself as both. I can be like a squirrel where, I am strategic about saving some money while I do have more of an influx of money. And then I can be an ostrich, with my head in the sand, and it's like, no, I need to buckle down and save everything right now in this moment. So you can definitely have characteristics of both.
And that's sort of how I feel, just because, saving, I not too long ago got into actually like saving. The whole having 2 bank cards, that was always a thing, but saving, I don't know, that became new because it's like, okay, I have a bill account and I have a spending account, but what about like emergency money? However, I typically use my credit cards for emergency money. So if I see, I don't know, if I get paid and I'm like, oh, okay, my spending account is looking real nice, I'll go out, splurge a little, as long as I have like all of my bill money for either that month or next month in my Chase account. Definitely gotta act like ostrich the whole time. However, when I do get paid, I will sit there and say, okay, this is how much I got. I know I need to pay rent on the 1st. I need to pay this. So I'll like strategically plan out like how much I need to take out of that check and put into my Chase account. But I don't think I could honestly sit here and say that I would be one or the other, because I'm definitely both.
Yeah, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. With finance, having a balance is really important. If you do have more characteristics of one versus the other, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're equally split in the middle, nothing wrong with that. And if you're one more than the other, that's okay as well. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to chapter 4. And in chapter 4, Tiffany discusses the third step to becoming financially whole, digging out of debt. So you'll begin by identifying your debt, make note of the name of who you owe, the total amount owed, minimum payments due. Then restructure your debt by credit cards, student loans, and mortgage loans. Your credit cards are going to be expensive debt because of their high interest rate. So you want to negotiate a lower interest rate by transferring your balance to lower rate credit cards, or apply for a personal loan to pay off those high balances, because sometimes those personal loans have lower interest rates compared to the credit card. And then with your student loans, we all kind of, discussed our grievances with those. And when you have a student loan, you can apply for a forbearance, loan forgiveness, or deferred payments on federal loans. And then regarding the mortgage, you can refinance for a lower interest rate. Then choose a pay down plan. You can decide between the Snowball Method as well as the Avalanche Method. With the Snowball Method, it requires you to pay off your debts from the smallest to largest balance. Tiffany describes this as whenever you do pay off the first debt, add that payment on to the second debt, and then so forth. And then if you make payments that are above the minimum requirement, make those payments towards your principal, because that is the amount you actually owe. And that's going to really pay down your loan. Whenever you just pay like more than the minimum payment, but you just pay it as a regular payment, all that does is just lower your next monthly payment. It does nothing to your interest. It does nothing to the actual amount that you owe to that company. And then as far as the Avalanche Method, this is basically where you just pay off your debts by going with the highest interest rate items first. And then also just keep in mind to walk before you run. Don't overwhelm yourself. Make sure you're at a steady pace. And you can even combine both methods. Get rid of the small debts first, and then switch over to those larger balances as you get comfortable, because you're making progress. And then use your unexpected money, that stranger that paid for your meal, your birthday gifts, any tax refunds. Use these funds to pay down debt and add to your savings. And then if you're needing help, you could use like a free online calculator if you need to. And then again, automate any pay downs. So I'll go ahead and pose a question to the audience. If you have debt, what information in this chapter made paying it down more manageable and possible to you? Olympia?
She mentioned something that really resonated with me. I believe it was in this chapter when she was saying that she was at Target, which happens to be my favorite store. She saw a dress and it was about $50. And when she went to go check the dress out, it was half off. So she went against her natural inclination to go and grab another dress in another color. And she just continued with that same dress, automatically saving her money, and then right away put the money that plan to spend on the second dress in her savings account. So that's kind of where I am financially, just making sure that anything that I purchase for myself, especially on leisure, I'm able to match that and add that to my savings account to rely on later should any surprises come up. So that definitely resonated with me.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because that was definitely something that stood out to me as well, because I've never thought about that. Like if there's something half off, best believe I'm gonna go back and get another one, because I want to get both for the price that I already had in my head that I was going to pay. So when Tiffany, broke that down and say, you take that money you actually saved and you put that up, and it's like, I would have never thought of that. So she definitely dropped so many gems and different little nuggets to make you kind of think more and expand your thoughts on saving and any of those other topics that she discussed. So thanks for bringing that up, Olympia. And Jennifer, I'll go ahead and ask you, have you used any of the pay down plans?
You know what? Actually, I have. So I'll be honest. Up until 3 years ago, I was the worst person. If I had to write you a check to pay you, God only knows when you were gonna get that money. Now everything is automated, and I surprised myself because I actually just looked. I was supposed to pay my car off in December. My car will now be paid off at the end of July, being on automatic payments. And it was just the little things like, most people get paid bi-weekly, but then there's that 1 or 2 times in the year where you get paid 3 times a month. So those little extra payments make all the difference in the world. So yeah, I'm going to pay off my car, and then that extra payment, at first I was like, oh, you know what I could do with that extra money? But then I remembered I just bought my daughter a car. So now that money will go, those extra payments will go to her car.
Yes, Jennifer, I definitely agree with everything you're saying. And then those extra payments that you're going to pay for your daughter, pay that to her principal balance, not just her.
You know what? When you
yeah.
said that, I didn't know that, because I was like, wait a minute, what? And when I looked at her her breakdown, and I didn't realize that. And it asked you, do you want to pay? Are you paying towards the principal, or are you paying? And for me, I was just paying an extra payment. Yeah. So yeah, it's all going towards the principal.
Yes, that is very important. That's going to cut down on interest and just the amount of time that you need to pay that back. So definitely congrats, on paying off your car sooner than expected. And just realizing that and taking some self-accountability, like, you know what, I'm not that disciplined. Like, even if you had the money, you could have had the money in your pocket. It was just like, I forgot to pay you, or whatever the case may be. So definitely understanding yourself will also help you come up with your plans for budgeting and anything along those lines. Okay, I see, Jakari, your hand is raised. Would you feel comfortable going ahead and answering this question? So Tiffany says to stop saying that you're in debt, because debt is not a place. Does this shift your mindset at all towards debt?
Yeah, because I definitely think it is a mindset, the way that you think about the steps that you're going to take to get yourself or turn situations around. I always think it's important, to sit down, write. I'm a visual person, so I like to write things down so that it is more clear to me, and then I can formulate a plan, of how I'm going to navigate those challenges. So I think it is important of how you think about it. I think a lot of times too, one thing that Tiffany mentioned a lot of stuff in talking about like money management and debt, but one thing that I felt like she didn't necessarily touch on that I think is important, of how our family or people that we were raised by view money as well as debt, because that really puts a lot of stuff in perspective. Like, I'm a first gen student. Like I said, I have 2 degrees. I'm probably one of the more fiscally sound individuals in my family. So for me, I never really saw, being fiscally accountable. So as I started to educate myself and learn more about debt, for me, I'm not just going to go buy anything. I asked myself, can I live without this? Do I need this? Is this something maybe I can get at a later time if I save money for it? So I think it is important about changing your perspective so that you can actually change your actions that kind of align with the goals that you have for the future, especially when it comes to debt. Because if you continue, if it's a constant cycle as far as like being in debt, you're never really going to be able to live the life that you want to live, because you're not going to be able to do certain things. Like, one thing about me, like people always say, money changes how you act, if you mean, or if you're in a bad mood. And so I think it is so important to make sure that as you're navigating through life, you hold yourself accountable to actually try to make a difference. Like, yeah, you may fall down one week, or, maybe you might have a bad week, but it's important to redefine that and say, I made a commitment to this. I'm going to do this to move forward, to make sure that you are meeting those needs. And I want to say too, like, I think it's great too, Jen, I heard you talk about the extra payment. I'm a homeowner, and so I've researched and learned that if you make one additional payment, it can knock 7 years off your mortgage. So I'm already putting my little coins together to make an extra payment every year moving forward so that I can knock off my mortgage quicker.
Yes, that is very true. Whenever you do have those loan terms, it's kind of like a contract that's binding you in, but you can outsmart that contract. You could take the steps necessary to pay off your loans in half the time that they said that you would. So it's definitely important to build a type of plan so you can do that. If that's what you want to do, you don't necessarily have to, but if that's what you want to do and you're able to do so, it's definitely smart to have that plan in place. And then also what you mentioned as far as like generational curses, we're all about breaking those, and it's definitely something that is needed in order to shift your mindset so you don't have a bad relationship with money. Because if you have a bad relationship with money, your pockets are going to reflect that. So it's very important to understand that relationship and don't allow the past to control your future, and that's with anything. So I thank you ladies for sharing. We're gonna go ahead and move on to chapter 5. So in chapter 5, Tiffany discusses the 4th step to becoming financially whole, to score high. The plan to get a 740 or higher credit score. And this is going to be by checking your payment history. This is accounts for 35% of your score. So you want to make sure that everything is updated and accurate on your credit report. Dispute anything that is incorrect, because errors are more common than you think. At least 1 in 5 people have an error on their credit report, which negatively impacts their credit score. So keep in mind that the most recent activity within like 12 to 24 months has the biggest impact on your score as well. Reduce your amounts owed and improve your credit utilization. This is 30% of your score. And then it's funny because you want to make sure that you keep your utilization under 30%. You want to make sure you're paying off your balance every month if possible. And then keep in mind that unsecured debt and secured debt are different. Unsecured is a loan without collateral like a credit card, and then secured debt is a loan with collateral like your mortgage or your car. Some credit card use is required to boost your credit score. If you ever hear a story like, oh, don't use your credit card. If you want your credit score to boost, you're going to have some type of activity, because you do also want to avoid any cancellation for the account going dormant. And then protect your credit inquiries. This accounts for 10% of your score. Your credit inquiries can lower your score for up to 12 months and stay on your credit report for 2 years. You want to make sure that you limit the number of inquiries and understand the difference between soft and hard inquiries, because soft inquiries don't have that much of an impact on your score as hard inquiries do. So definitely keep note of that. And then in regards to building the length of your credit history, this is about 15% of your score. It takes about 6 months for your credit history to gain a credit score. And remember that, again, like I said, beginning, that a bad score is better than no score. You don't want to have no credit score or no credit history whatsoever. You can build credit history by becoming an authorized user on a trusted person's account. Make sure that they have a low balance, they have a perfect payment history, and the account has been open for at least 3 years. If you are 30 years old and that account has been open for 60 years, the lender is going to look at you crazy, because how is that even possible? And then also you can pay it forward. So, if you are someone that is good with your credit, you can add someone to your account as an authorized user, and that way you'll be able to help them build their credit. Keep in mind that this won't impact your score, but it will impact theirs. So, don't go off the side and get bad scores or bad credit history during this time, because it negatively impacts whoever you add as an authorized user. And then also keep in mind that building credit, you can do this by getting a loan for credit building purposes, or a secured credit card that requires no money out. Basically, it's intended for you to use your own money and borrow from yourself, essentially. And then, like I said before, keep any old credit card accounts open if you can, because the length of your history is very important. And then lastly, manage your credit mix. This is 10% of your score. You need to know the difference between revolving credit and installment loans. Revolving credit is like a credit card. It keeps the balance can go up and down. The credit just keeps revolving. Your installment loan is like your car, your mortgage. It's a one set loan, and you just make payments to pay down that balance. And then if you have a mix of revolving and installment loans, this will create a better mix, and it will boost your credit score to where you're getting those perfect scores. So I do want to ask the audience, what do you understand about credit now that you didn't quite know before? You can go ahead and raise your virtual hand. London, can you go ahead and answer the question on what do you understand about credit now that you didn't quite know before?
Well, okay, so real quick, I had a credit card, and so in my head, I was just going to use it for emergency purposes only. And so it's exactly what she talked about in the book about it went dormant, and they canceled my card. When I tell you all, I call myself being a good stewardess over this credit card. My feelings was so hurt. I like literally cried, like, this is not fair. I'm trying to make, good decisions and not using this credit card, and they take it away from me. And so when she started talking about it, it really just like, it's so sad, but it like lifted a little burden off my heart that I had been having in my heart for like the past year or so, because my feelings was so hurt. I'm like, here I am trying to be a good stewardess, and then they take it away from me. Oh my God, it just crushed me, because I was in my whole, get my credit together, making better decisions. And so when to hear her, because I was listening to it in my ear, to hear her speak about it, it just like really kind of like, healed my little poor heart from my little my pain. And so I felt a lot better. I was like, okay, so this is very common, because for me, it was just like, why would they do that? I've been doing really well. So it just really helped me put it into perspective of why, because I didn't know I really didn't understand the why behind it. So me listening to it helped me understand the why.
Yeah, it's also like a bank account. If you don't use your bank account for, I think, a year, they can close your account because it's technically dormant. It's no activity, but those are a little bit more easier to reestablish than probably a credit card. I haven't had it happen to me personally, so I don't know the process with that. But yeah, you definitely want to make sure you have some type of activity. If it's $1, piece of gum at the gas station, and then just pay that off. And then this brings me to my next question. Has anyone tried the credit boost hack before that she mentions? Kim, I see that your hand is still raised. Have you tried the credit boost hack by chance?
I haven't. It was raised for the other question, but I haven't.
Okay, so I do want to just challenge you all to try the credit boost hack, because basically all you're doing is just taking a small purchase. Like I mentioned, if it's $1 to $10 or something along those lines, and basically what you're going to do is charge your card within your statement date, because you have separate dates. You have a statement date, which is just basically when they report this information to the credit bureaus, and then you have your payment date, which is the amount that's due to show that you're paying on time, and so you're not getting any late fees or reflecting bad on your credit. So, for example, if your statement date is April 30th and then your due date is May 15th, you would want to, let's say, charge your Netflix subscription to the credit card by, let's say, April 22nd, because this is before the 30th, because you want to make sure it's reported by the 30th. And then you would pay this balance off on May 5th. That way it is completed after the statement date, which is April 30th, and it's paid before your due date, which is May 15th. So it's kind of something that she mentioned, and she says this is supposed to just miraculously boost your credit score. I haven't tried it, but I think I'm gonna test it out to see, because it's not really anything that can hurt you. But yeah, just to kind of see like what it does, because if that's really a silent assassin there, I think it'd be a game changer to definitely just have those type of credit boosts. Okay, so I'll go ahead and move on to the final chapter that we'll discuss in this discussion session. I do want to, appreciate you guys sticking on a little bit longer. Conversation is so good, we're going over time here, but I'll make this pretty quick. So moving on to chapter 6, Tiffany discusses the 5th step to becoming financially whole. This is where you're going to learn to increase your income by learning to earn. Maximize your earning potential at work. You could keep a list of things you've done to benefit the company, reflect on your contributions and dollars that you saved the company. Seek professional development training or courses, additional certifications or degrees so you can increase your pay. Find out if the company has tuition reimbursement that will cover any of those fees. And then you could also negotiate your salary and benefits during the interview before you even get hired. As well as assess your skills, decide which of these skills you can monetize, and put a number on it to know the income potential. I'll go ahead and pose questions to the audience. Have you started keeping a brag book to present when you do decide to ask for a raise? Jakari, I'll go ahead and ask you this question.
Yes, I have, and it actually worked for me. I will say, I think as Black women, a lot of times we don't necessarily want to go in and be pushy to ask for what we deserve, just because we feel like people won't be receptive, or if our male counterparts are making more money, we just kind of devalue, I think the work that we bring to a company. And so I just did it recently. It took me a couple months. but I was able to get an extra $20,000 boost in my salary, all because I would not accept no for an answer. Now it took me 6 months, but I just kept with it. This is what I'm bringing to the table. This is what I offer. And, you also kind of got to put it in their face, like, if I'm not here doing this, then A, B, C, and D may happen, or I can go, these other places and, be appreciated where I'm actually at. So I think it's important, number one, to be your number one encourager and motivator. Know that you're of value and worth specifically at whatever institution, whatever place of business that you work, and that you're making a difference, because that will light a fire under you too when you feel like that you're making a difference, or when you have that laundry list of things that have maybe changed. Maybe you made them more money, maybe you haven't had, I know for me, violations are a big thing. So when you don't have a lot of violations, that is a good thing, because you're doing a good job at your job. And so I think it is important as women to advocate for yourself, educate yourself, and make sure that you are taking advantage of advocating. Because I'm just gonna be real, white people do it all the time. They don't have an issue about it. They won't feel no type of way. They're gonna go in there and demand what they want. And we'll be, I don't want to go in there and, ask for this because I feel like I don't deserve it. No, you deserve it. You deserve a seat at the table. You deserve to be making what your counterparts are making, because in most cases, you're probably doing a job better than them anyways. So, just encourage yourself to know that you have what it takes to, be in that position and make the money that you want to make. And if they're not willing to pay you, seek out other opportunities that will, acknowledge you and the person and the work that you do.
Yes, that is very true. And congratulations to you, on that increase. I can remember a time that I think you were gonna go on an interview for something, maybe for this job. And I remember you were creating a PowerPoint, and I'm like, sis, what are you doing? And you're like, I'm about to go on this interview and I need to make sure I'm prepared. And like, I've never seen anyone do that. So, and honestly, it inspired me to like, maybe I should put a little effort when I do, prepare for an interview. But I digress. But nonetheless, like, I believe you that you did this brag book, and I'm pretty sure it was so detailed, y'all. This lady is so detail oriented and she analyzes everything. She's a perfectionist. So I don't doubt that she did any of this, and you definitely deserve a $20,000 raise, because you put a lot of effort into that brag book, I'm pretty sure. And I'll go ahead and move on to Monica. Can you share if you have done this as well?
Thank you, Brianna. My story actually has been pretty much the complete opposite. I am pretty much call myself really humble in nature. And so I've never presented myself in a braggadocious manner. And I mean that professionally. But what I have done is I'm kind of like when you get pushed against the wall, then you kind of retaliate. So I've left companies for higher roles because I knew they just wanted me stagnant in the role. So I held a position as a financial analyst for many, many years and kept getting additional responsibilities. So I was pretty much working as a production controller, but no change in salary and no change in title and all that. Not that I'm chasing title, but if I'm just aware I'm doing all these additional responsibilities for no additional compensation. So with that, I left that company. And then when the pandemic hit, I was pretty much leaving that company. So with that, I wanted to take charge of my own salary and my own income cap. So I kind of had to boost and brag on myself and my own skills that I had developed over the years and monetize those. So I wasn't really able to get that from someone else or from an employer. But with me doing so, you kind of drive your confidence up and you rely so heavily on those skills, because when you lose that safety net, you can't do anything except walk out in confidence. So with that, it actually proved really beneficial for me. And one thing I really relish and enjoy is that what I do actually helps someone else. I was so humbled that I didn't even think about someone else. It was just, did I do the next assignment? Did I do the next assignment? Did I do the next assignment? So don't be afraid to step out. Don't be afraid to lose a safety net. You have no idea how many people need your skill set and would definitely compensate you for it.
Yes, I definitely agree with that, Monica. And then I also just wanted to know, because when you first started, you said, you're so humble and you don't brag on yourself. I think not get so focused on the word brag, or think of it as like, oh, I'm being cocky or anything like that. But you do deserve to big yourself up. You do deserve, like Jakari said, to encourage yourself. And so whenever you do come up with anyone, if they come up with this list, don't think like, oh, like I don't want to brag, or like I don't want to say I'm better than, the next person or anything like that. But it's just saying like, hey, I'm giving myself, a slap on the back. Like I did this. I was able to boost this company by this certain amount of dollars. And I was able to, any other contributions that you've made to the company. It's just kind of a reflection of your work. And then also just a reminder to yourself, because a lot of times, we put our head down, we get our work done day by day. We complete these tasks and we stay after closing or whatever the case may be. We always go a step above, especially as Black women. We have to work 5 times as harder. So it's definitely important to take that moment to say, you know what, I'm gonna keep track of what I've done, because when it does come down to your evaluations or anything like that, you got something to back you up to say, you know what, I don't really care for this little 3% y'all giving me, because I actually am worth this amount, because this is what I did last year. This is what I've done for whatever the time may be. So you can still do that and be humble. You're just giving them a humble read and letting them know that you're not gonna keep shortchanging me. Like, pay me what I'm worth, because I have a value, and my value, it comes with a monetary dollar attached to that. So I definitely want to encourage that to you, Monica, for sure. I know how hard you work. And then also to any other ladies on this call that could resonate with as well. And just to kind of save time here, I'll move on to one last question. We kind of touched on this, so like, why do you think people are afraid to ask for a raise? We kind of touched on, like, especially as Black women, just kind of how just asking for a raise or just, stating your self-worth, how it can be some issues with that. So I guess the last thing I would ask, and it's really not a question, but if you have a side hustle, raise your virtual hand and feel free to put what your side hustle is in the chat. So everyone just take a moment, any side hustle that you have, put it in the chat, let everyone know. If you don't have a side hustle yet, but you plan on having one, put that in the chat as well. Just giving yourself that affirmation that this is what I'm going to do. Just like Tiffany said, tell your money what it needs to do and where it needs to go. So if you have this side hustle, or if you have this goal, or whatever the case may be that you're looking to launch, go ahead and drop that in the chat so we can see that as well. And then I do just want to wrap up this session. And I just want to thank you all for, attending and being participative. We had a great conversation. We were able to touch on some awesome points. We definitely went over time a little bit. But I do want to let you know that the next discussion date will be held on April 20th. It's another Wednesday at 7:08 p.m. again on Zoom. This is another 2 weeks. Just give you some time to finish the remaining chapters so you are prepared for the next meeting. And then before you leave, we do ask that you take the time to turn on your cameras if you don't already do, so we can take a group photo of everyone to document this great time that we're having. And Jakari is
Yeah, our picture lady is on my Sora Faiths. Sora Faith, you ready for a picture? Let me see. I'm gonna go full screen. Brianna, you'll have to stop sharing and then reshare.
Okay.
To be able to get everybody on one screen. And then we can, okay. So I think we have one page of everybody, so that's good. All right, so Faith, let me know when you're ready. You want to count
go
to
ahead.
3? Okay, I'll count to 3. All right, so y'all get your little glamour shots together, right? All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, let's do another one. Let's say money on a count of 3, okay? I heard this a trick because I have really big high cheekbones, so my eyes close every time I smile. And somebody told me to say money, and your eyes will stay open. So I'm gonna say money on a count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Money.
Got it.
Thank you, Sora Faith. And then Bree, if you want to pull up your PowerPoint again and show upcoming events as well.
Yes, thank you. So I went ahead and put a link in the chat. This is the survey link. It takes a short minute to complete. And this is just basically asking for your feedback on how this first session went. If there's anything that you like, didn't like, want to improve on, anything of those lines, you can mention on the survey. Again, it's in the chat.
I'm gonna chime in just a little bit, Bree. Please make sure you fill out the survey. It allows us to know and get feedback of how you enjoyed the presentation, as well as if there's things that we can do better on, which I want to just thank you to. So Brianna, you did an amazing job. I think your experience, your background with, working in finances and just really being able to illustrate Tiffany's message to the group, you just did a phenomenal job. So thank you. I really appreciate that as well.
I just want to double, triple that. Thank you so much, Brianna, for bringing this. The book itself is awesome. You just did such a great job facilitating, and we just really appreciate you.
Thank you, ladies. I definitely enjoyed the participation, just how engaged everyone was, how knowledgeable we all are in our own rights. And I'm glad that I was able to be received well, to kind of translate what Tiffany said in the book, if it didn't already register with you, because she is a pretty good storyteller herself for sure. So hopefully everyone does take the time out to go ahead and just complete the survey if you have not already. But also, because we are pretty much over time, we're gonna go ahead and go over the upcoming events that GKO has for the rest of the month of April. Jakari, do you wanna go over these, or do you want me to?
Go ahead, sis.
Okay, so upcoming in April, we have the Black Maternal Health Forum, which is actually going to be held on Tuesday, April 12th. This is going to be during Black Maternal Week, which is next week. We'll have a speaker that will discuss Black maternal health and just the effects that it has in the community. And then as kind of like a kind of like a summary of, of our, book club sessions that we're having. We have a financially lit workshop. So it's going to be kind of like I said, the summary to the conclusion of the Financial Literacy Month. And that is going to be on April 27th. That's going to be at 7:08 p.m. Into the 8:08 p.m. or 8:38. I got something in the middle of my screen, I can't see it. But we do have that coming up, as well as the Masquerade Ball. And that is going to be on April 29th. Does I say 6:08? I can't see y'all. Okay, 6:08 p.m. to 7:38 p.m. These events are all virtual. We do hope that everyone comes out and attend and tune in virtually, and he'll be able to assist in participating in all of these events. They're very important, especially Black maternal health. It's something that goes unnoticed and untalked about, and is very vital to the community, especially when our Black women are not being cared for as they should compared to their counterparts. And that does conclude our session today. Again, I do want to thank everyone for participating and just being so engaging, taking the liberty to stay a little bit longer. I hope you got a lot out of our discussion today. I hope you got a lot out of the book so far. Go ahead and keep staying in tune and read the remaining chapters, because we will further this discussion. It will get even better. And we'll be able to tie everything back in as a whole. So I look forward to seeing all of your faces again, and just continuing this great discussion that is very needed. Jakari, did you have any farewells or anything?
Just final words. Just again, thank you, Sora, Brianna. This was a great discussion. Thank you, ladies, for participating. It's always good to allow people to engage with you, and then you're not the only person talking. So great job with really being engaging. And again, like I said, thank you, Sora, Bree. Lastly, We thank you all for attending this event. As my soror Brianna stated, we have several of other future events that are coming up. I did drop the link for a few of those for registration purposes. If you're able to attend, you have an interest to attend, please do. We are always doing a lot in the community. People will hear me say GKO is small, but we're very mighty and especially impactful specifically in our community on a number of different targets. So I hope everybody has a great night. Make sure some of those goals that you guys listed out today, you write them on a piece of paper. I don't know if y'all can see this behind me because I got my logo up, but I have a board. It has a list of all of my financial goals and saving challenges. And it's good to see it every day and to check a box so that you know that you're sticking to what you said you were going to do. And it's a reminder for you to reward yourself small, maybe not always big gifts sometimes, but maybe something small when you do meet those goals that you're setting for yourselves. As Black women, pretty much everybody on the call is just be empowered, be inspired. Advocate for yourself, because if you don't, no one will. You matter. You deserve to be paid what you deserve. And like I said, I just hope everybody has a great evening and a great week. And we look forward to seeing you at future events. Have a great night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.